Hey guys, it's Brooke here from the Vintage Gardener. Welcome back to my channel. So today we are finally going to start talking about peonies, petals, and posies, which is the name of the, I guess you want to say greenhouse business slash nursery business. Thinking of greenhouses looks, and the reason I'm kind of confused on this because I think with a lot of nurseries, they pretty much just get the plants in and sell it, as opposed to I think a greenhouse actually either starts the seeds, grows them at a certain point in time. It's a little bit different, but I'm doing doing both really. So yeah, I guess I would consider myself more. I'm just gonna say it's a greenhouse nursery. Okay. So anyway, I know peonies, petals, and posies is not a traditional nursery or greenhouse name, and that's fine because quite frankly, it's really not going to be a traditional greenhouse nursery. So I haven't really talked about what I was going to do. I know I did a podcast and I think I told you I guess my why I decided to do it. But let's talk about more about the business and what exactly is I'm looking to do. So with this particular greenhouse nursery, I'm looking to cater to people, to gardeners like myself. And I know some of you guys are probably thinking, well, don't you think it's kind of limited? A lot of people don't garden the way that you do. And that is true. But my personal belief is that people don't garden the way that I do because plants are not available for them to garden that way. Most garden centers and that sort of thing get their products from a middle person. They get them from a distribution center, so they are limited to by what's actually available. Most garden centers are not actually growing the plants themselves. So anytime you're limited to what somebody else is doing, you're going to be limited to things that are, everything that it's going to be what's in trend. Which is why for those of us who enjoy having something special in our gardens, that's why you typically have to look online for it because that's the only way to get it. So I'm looking to offer more unusual, flower varieties. I'm My whole belief with gardening is that your garden should be a personal reflection of you. And so, you know, if you want to have all of your plants be by proven winners, for sake of example, or Monrovia, that's totally up to you. But if you want to have something that's a little bit more custom, custom look, then you should be able to do that. And unfortunately, a lot of garden centers typically carry the same type of things because generally speaking, they're getting their stuff from the same distributors. So the plants that I'm going to be offering are either things that I have grown in my garden, or things that are like specialty items that I will be getting from other places. So it's going to be a curated selection of plants. So when in thinking about how to do this, at first I thought I was like, oh, I'll just do zinnias this year, just to kind of dip my toe into it. And I decided not to do that. I decided to actually offer plants in a collection. So because I know for a lot of people, most garden design does not come naturally. Sometimes you don't know what's going to look well, what's going to look right for something. So I thought that if I did a color coordinated selection of plants, it's going to look good, all together. The other thing is that with all of these plants, all of them will work as flowers for flower arrangements if that's something you would like to do, which I know some people do. And although pretty much any plant can go in the landscape, not every landscape plant does well as a cut flower. And so I know that even with some of the things I've had in my own garden, that I wanted to make bouquets from them and cut them, put them in a vase, and then notice that like the next day they shattered or it just didn't do well. So these are flowers, these are plants that will do really well in cut flower arrangements. So all the plants that I will be selling will typically be taller. There are some varieties that are naturally shorter, but what's in vogue right now is just very short, everything is short and compact. You don't really have a lot of tall varieties. Most of the things that I'm going to be offering are going to be a little bit taller because cut flowers, plants that are cut flowers typically are a little bit like at least, tend to be like 36 inches. Though not all of them. So there are probably, I should have counted it out before I did this video, but there are probably at least like 20 different varieties of plants. Actually, you know what? I think there are over 30 because I think when I have done some garden design plans, and we'll go over that in another video, and those will be available to purchase. But I think now that I think about when I was doing like A, B, C, D, I think I was past Z, which is the 26th letter. So I think was I at DD or EE? So there's probably about 30 plants that are going to be in this collection. And of course, I may end up finding something else that I like to offer. So this year's collection is going to be the wine and chocolate collection. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys that in 2025, as of right now, the plan for that collection is Persian Garden. So today we're going to talk about the first group of plants, and these are peonies. And peonies are one of my favorite plants. They look a lot like the old garden style roses. Peonies are one of those types of things. They only bloom once a year. So if you're going to plant peonies, which I highly recommend that you do, make sure you plant other things interspersed between them. I mean, obviously, if you want to plant a whole glut of peonies and just deal with the dead afterwards, that's fine. But if you don't want to have a whole section of your garden dead, you might want to interplant them. And of course, most of us have smaller gardens. We don't have enough space to have just a dedicated peony garden. So most of the time you're going to plant things around them anyway, but that's just something to keep in mind if you are somebody who is new to gardening. So peonies come in roots. They're very long lived. Their lifespan can easily be 90 to 100 years old. A lot of peonies, I don't know that they're necessarily native to the US. I know a lot of peonies originated in China. And so there's a lot of imports, especially today. There's more things coming in. I know Holland also breeds a lot of peonies, but that's Holland. Holland breeds a lot of they have breed so many different types of things. One of these days I want to go to Holland because it seems like there's a lot of good new roses, obviously the tulips and all that stuff. And they don't originate in Holland, but they seem to get the corner market on it. So I'm going to be offering peonies that you're not going to find in the store. There are certain types of peonies you're going to see in big box stores, and even sometimes even independent garden centers like your Sarah Bernhardt, your Felix Kraus, your Carl Rosenfeld. Sometimes you may see the Cora Louise, the Bartzella, what's that one? Julia Rose, and that sort of thing. The Coral Charm, and that sort of thing. Those, and there's nothing wrong with those. I'm going to be offering some heirloom varieties, a little bit some newer varieties, and I'm going to be trying to. I'm going to make a concerted effort to be offering an herbaceous peony, an intersectional peony, and a tree peony. So let's talk about the differences. So an herbaceous peony is the typical peony you see, for example, like the Sarah Bernhardt. They are roots. All of them are roots, but they actually do die back down to the ground every single year and send up new growth in the spring. How deep you bury your peonies really depends upon where you live. If you're living in like zone 8 is probably the highest zone you can really grow them, because peonies they do need a cold period in order to come back and do well. If you're living in zone 8, then you need to put your peonies only an inch under the ground to make sure that it's getting that cold treatment. If you're in zones maybe like, you know, 6 and 7, I'm in zone 7A, you can get away with putting it maybe 2 inches underground, between 1 to 2. And then, if you're in zone like 5 and lower, you can put them a little bit deeper, because you can put them probably maybe like 2 to 3 inches deep, because you get enough cold that they're going to get that cold period. Now, Depending upon who you ask, some people say you shouldn't mulch peonies. I do mulch my peonies, but because I'm mulching my peonies, I typically put them right under the surface because the mulch, and I don't mulch thickly, but the mulch does act like dirt, and so that's what I personally do. But it's up to you. I know that, for example, Kathleen from Peonies Envy believes that mulch contributes to a lot of fungal diseases. I'll be quite honest, I've always mulched my peonies. Once again, it's very thin layer of mulch, and I've never had that issue, but that is entirely up to you. So those are herbaceous peonies. Then you have tree peonies. Tree peonies are more like a shrub. They kind of, although they're considered, what's and I forget like how the whole like system class, like the scientific classification, like they're both under, I guess, family Peonia, but in terms of their species name, it is different. They're more like a shrub. They do grow very slow. It usually takes about 10 years for them to get to their full height. And they're big blooms. They're like dinner plate size. I've had some that were the size of my face. Um, they don't necessarily make for good cut flowers, because I don't think they have a lot of vase life. The other thing is that when you're dealing with a tree peony, you don't want to be cutting into the wood because that's going to affect things for next year. So if you're looking for something for the landscape, go with the tree peony. If you're looking for something for cut flower purposes, you're going to want to go with an herbaceous peony. In terms of sunlight, herbaceous peonies need full sun. There are some that may be able to take, some, you know, part shade, but part shade is 4 to 6 hours. I would go more on the 6 hours than less. Tree peonies can actually handle dappled shade. As a matter of fact, I have gone to Peonies Envy and for a class, and she typically has her tree peonies growing in kind of a woodland setting. And so, if you're doing a woodland garden, it's absolutely perfect for that. And the last type of peony is called an Edo peony or an intersectional peony. So an Edo peony is a cross between a tree peony and an herbaceous peony, and that was very hard to achieve because they do bloom at different times, so their pollen is different. Is ripening at different times. The first person who did it was a man whose last name was Ito, and he blended. I think it was a Lutea tree peony with some sort of lactiflora peony. And so typically the tree peonies that had been used were like a yellow one, which is why the first intersectional peonies were yellow. Actually, I don't think any of the ones he originated actually are still on the market anymore. I'm sure if you found a peony collector, you may find one, but I don't think they're not really in circulation. They're just not as popular anymore. So, um, I think technically with Edo peonies, it's like a specific type of tree peony, specific type of herbaceous peony, and intersectional is just a generalized cross between a tree peony and an herbaceous peony. So, intersectional peonies have blendings of both characteristics because they are hybrids. And so, on one hand, they're like an herbaceous peony in that they die down to the ground every season and flush back up, but they are like a tree peony in that when they come up, they almost by the end of the season they kind of almost develop like woody stems. They're very very thick stems. I have Bartzella intersectional peonies, and I don't really even need to stake them. They just kind of they're very very stiff. The other thing is they also have larger blooms than a traditional herbaceous peony, depending upon the varieties that they were bred from. So, in terms of bloom sequence, tree peonies tend to bloom first, then herbaceous peonies, then the intersectional peonies. So, if you get enough varieties of each, you can have about 8 weeks of continuous blooming peonies. Um, from what I recall, intersectional peonies, they don't typically do well in a vase, but once again, that's individual varieties. I'm going to be showing you some today that actually do work in a vase. Intersectional peonies are like herbaceous peonies in that they do need full sun. So with peonies, you know, A lot of times when you get them, they're very small roots. A lot of times it can take 2 to 3 years for them to bloom. The ones that I will be offering, I do believe, based upon the size of them, they're going to be will bloom for you the first year. These are considered to be blooming sizes. I did got some peonies last year from them, and actually I got them pretty late, pretty late. When I got them in the ground, it was a lot later than I ordinarily would have. And actually, I did get a bloom on them. And so I know that if I had planted them like in the fall or winter, they would have done a lot better. So that is pretty much it with peonies. Peonies, they're fairly they like well draining soil. They're fairly drought tolerant. You don't have to keep, if you water them a couple times a week, they'll be fine. As a matter of fact, they like it to be a little bit drier. With herbaceous peonies, you do need to stake them because especially when they have a lot of blooms on them, they'll just flop over. In terms of diseases in past, they don't. Let's put it this way: in my my New Jersey Zone 7A garden, they don't seem to have a lot of pests. The leaves and foliage do stay nice until the end of the season, and the end of the season when we start getting more rain, then you'll notice the powdery mildew. They do get borealis blight. If that happens, just cut it all the way back. So with the foliage, I leave it until it looks, once it starts getting like some heavy brown spots on it, you can just cut it back. But I don't cut it back immediately because obviously I want the leaves to get as much energy I can to put into the roots and, for growth for next year. So that is the care about peonies. They're really easy to grow, and they're deer resistant. So it's not one of those things you have to worry about, Bambi coming through and like mowing them all down, which is another benefit. If you're going to use them for cut flowers, you're going to wait till the buds get into a marshmallow stage. So the way a marshmallow feels, when how squishy that is, that's how you want the buds to be when you cut them. So I think that's it in terms of care. If you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments. So without further ado, let's look at what I'm offering in the wine chocolate collection this year. Okay, guys, so this is the logo I've chosen for my business, which is Peonies, Petals, and Posies. And as you can see, it's kind of similar to the Vintage Gardener theme because obviously it's kind of, I was playing on that. So I guess the full name of the business is Peonies, Petals, and Posies by the Vintage Gardener NJ, which is a surprise to nobody. So this is what you're going to be seeing and all the stuff. Okay, so 2000, I don't know why I put 2023. I think when I did the slideshow it was 2023, but we are doing the wine and chocolate collection. So first thing up are peonies. So the first type of peony that I'm going to be offering this year is Francois Tajah. Now I know you guys are probably thinking, what on earth? It looks like Francois Ortegat, but this is French. So that C with the thing on the bottom of it, that's called a sadia, and it's pronounced as an S in French. And in French, when you have a word that ends with a consonant, unless there's an E on the end of it, you do not pronounce that consonant. So it's just the last vowel sound. So you have Francois, and then of course the next word is Ortegat. And in France, as in most Romance languages, when you have two similar vowel sounds like that together, you don't basically pronounce them separately, it just kind of all runs together. So it's Francois Tajah. And so this was developed by Parmentier in 1850. And so the description of this flower is that it covers herself in large, fragrant blooms in late mid-season. Okay, and so this is a mahogany red peony, and when first in bud, it is dark and sultry, and it's the deep, rich burgundy wine buds open to luxuriously dark blossoms, giving way to a rich magenta. So once again, burgundy wine and chocolate, y'all. So they are 36-inch stems that are perfect for cutting in bud. But this particular peony does need support when in full bloom in the garden. So that is a Francois de Jacques. So I believe I have 10 of those on order because obviously, these are peonies you don't see. This is an heirloom variety, so it's going to be a little bit more um it's going to be a little bit more pricey. I mean, not overly pricey, but a little bit more pricey because this is for the peony connoisseur. Those of you who like having the special peonies, those of you guys, I know if you're anything like me, you like having heirloom things, and heirloom flowers tend to be a lot more fragrant. So I'm, you know what? I don't even know if I got one for myself. So I might have to. There might only be 9, y'all. There might be only 9, because I don't actually have this one in my garden. So, but I'm excited to offer this one for this year. Then this is a tree peony. So this is Peony Rocky Eye. It's flare rubble. This is the rubble tree peonies. So there is an Asian name which is Gao Yun Shang Ha. I probably slaughtered that, or whole. Maybe that's how the last part is pronounced. So these are 7-inch purple red flowers with light fragrance. The flowers are semi-double and they bloom like a rose without the stamens. The plant is erect with strong growth and hardiness. The adult plants reach more than 5 feet tall and produce a large number of flowers beginning early in their lives. So once again, this is a tree peony. It will take 10 years to get to the full size. So even if it's like, it ends up being 6 or 7 feet tall, just like, however many 7 feet, I think 7 feet is 84 inches. So if you divide that by 10, it's going to be growing like maybe 8.5 inches per year. They just grow slow. So wherever you put them, because, the one thing about tree peonies, more so I find than the intersectional and herbaceous, is that if you move a tree peony, it is going to pout and it's going to be very pouty. So the tree peonies, put them somewhere they can get their full height. So this one is going to be, usually they are as tall as they are wide. So this is probably going to be a 5 to 5, 5 by 5, 6 by 6, 7 by 7, whatever. But that's the way it is. So this is the tree peony. Now this one is an intersectional peony. It's an Edo peony. It's called Lafayette Escadrille. And so this one was developed in 1989. So this one is very floriferous and will yield bouquets of flowers for use indoor or out. It's a mid-season, and it's this they're saying this one is nearly scentless. So it probably has very, very minimal, if any, scent. So this is a dark color as well. This When I was looking for things, I was very surprised to see that this one could be used for cut flowers, because most of the time intersectional peonies are not the ones you typically use for that. But once again, you know, I jumped at it because I want you to be able to use flowers as cut flowers. And so, like I said, intersectional peonies tend to bloom after the heirloom, the herbaceous ones. So that way you can have several weeks of, deep red peonies for bouquets. This one is called Burnished Bronze. So this is an herbaceous peony. This was developed in 2003, so it's a more recent one. And so it's a combination of dark bronze foliage and deep chocolate single red flowers on short stems. It's mildly fragrant in early season. Okay, so it apparently can handle light shade and it'll preserve its color a little bit better. And so it has short 18-inch stems, which that's actually a fairly decent. Hold on a second. Yeah, about this. So that's a fairly decent stem for cutting. So you can still cut it, and it has extra dark foliage and dark, why is that double? A dark chocolate red single, 5-inch wide blooms. So 5 inch is probably about the size of my hand. So it's a fairly large bloom. And it's got dark tip stigmas. And so it's going to be sensational. So that's really interesting, the color of the foliage, because most, peony foliage is not dark bronze. So though that is the peony collection. So last but not least, I do have some merchandise. So I'm going to put that up because I know some of you guys have asked, Somebody I know, a couple of you guys have asked, do you have any t-shirts or anything? So I thought we would go through the Vintage Gardener store so you can see what I have available. Okay, guys, so I have a merchandise store on Cafe Press. I've actually always had one, and I think I mentioned it one time, but it was way back in the day before I actually had a lot of viewers, so I don't think anybody ever went to it. But anyway, I do get royalties from this, and if you'd like to support the channel as well as if you'd like to support the my business, then you may consider purchasing something. So anyway, just wanted to go over what's here. So I have, a lot of stuff for men, women. So, like for example, with women, I've got racer back tank tops. Let's see, this one. This one doesn't have anything on its back, and you can order it in black or navy blue. So there's that. And then I have a vintage gardener T-shirt that's pink. That's just the logos on the pocket. And now y'all please forgive me because they do have QR codes because that way you can help me share the channel. This particular shirt comes in light pink or blue, so you do have their choice in that. And then I have, like t-shirts, short sleeve t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts. I have scoop neck things, t-shirts. I do have some shirts, as you can see, for peonies, petals, and oh my goodness, peonies, petals, and posies. So let me see. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is what the t-shirt looks like. I think the code on the back is for my Instagram. So I thought it was kind of fun. But anyway, so there's a lot of different varieties. I do have some maternity shirts. I do have some plus size t-shirts and that sort of thing. There's a lot here for women, and then there's for men. We've got the typical t-shirt with the pocket logo. I've got sweatshirts, sweatshirts with hoods. Actually, you know what? With the women's section, I thought I had some sweatshirts with hoods. Oh yeah, I do. Well, that's a hooded long t-shirt. I mean, with those hoodies, I mean, they are kind of unisex, so you can still wear the men's hoodies. I think actually when I got some sweatshirts, I think I did get the men's. I just got a small size. And so yeah, there's all kind of t-shirts and long sleeve shirts and that sort of thing. So I'm gonna have to. I guess I should probably do a sweatshirt, a specific women's sweatshirt. But once again, the men's sweatshirts work just fine. As a matter of fact, you guys have probably seen me wearing them in videos. But I do have a drinkware section. And so I've got the straw tumblers for peonies, petals, and posies, and one from Vintage Gardener. I have a magic mug. So with the magic mug, let's see. Let me pull this one up. The mug, I think, is white. Well, it's kind of got like some, but once you put something hot in or something in it, then it actually um it the the um the logo appears. So I thought that was kind of fun. So I do have regular mugs for both. I have some, they're different sizes. I've got 11, 15 inch, excuse me, 15 ounce. I've got travel mugs and that sort of thing. I've just got, the 20 ounce, sort of mega mug. I've got latte mugs. I have an insulated mug. I've got water bottles. There's another magic. Oh, there's this magic mug for Vintage Gardener, and I've got stainless steel water bottles. So I probably will add some other things. I'm trying to think, do I have posters in our? I don't think I have posters. I don't think I did stickers yet. I think I have to recreate some of the stickers. So right now it's just t-shirts and clothing and drinkware. So that sort of thing. So anyway, there is enough for you guys to play around with and find some, find things that you want to buy. And of course, they'll make gifts. They make lovely gifts. And so probably closer to the holidays, I'll be adding some additional things to here and that sort of thing. So anyway, guys, that is it for today's video. I know this was a little bit longer, but obviously there was a lot more I have to cover in this one because it's the first wine and chocolate collection video. So if you guys have any questions about peonies, leave them in the comments. I will be releasing more information in terms of prices and sizes in the future. And of course, if you guys would like to support the channel, then, obviously subscribe and share, but more importantly, buy some of the merchandise. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.